New York State Racing, Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 102, provides that the New York State Gaming Commission shall consist of 7 members appointed by the governor by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. 4 members confirmed by the Senate are necessary to afford the commission an ability to establish a quorum and undertake action. This present meeting of the Gaming Commission is now called to order. Ms. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
John Crotty.
Here.
Peter Machete.
Here.
John Baklemba.
Here.
Barry Sample.
Here.
Jerry Skurnick.
Here.
Todd Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Secretary, please have the record reflect that a quorum of qualified members is present, thus enabling transaction of business. Chairman Sample?
Our first item is to do the meeting minutes from our last meeting. Minutes of the commission meeting conducted on December 10th, 2018 have been provided to the members in advance. At this time, I'd like to ask if members have any edits, corrections, or amendments.
No.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is rulemaking. New York State Racing, Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law 104.19 authorizes the Commission to promulgate rules and regulations that it deems necessary to carry out its responsibilities. To that regard, the Commission will from time to time promulgate rules and rule amendments pursuant to the State Administrative Procedure Act. Today we have 3 items for consideration or reconsideration. Rob, will you please outline the first item?
Certainly. Please recall at the meeting of December 10th, 2018, the Commission gave conditional approval to the adoption of a proposed rule that would add flexibility to the thoroughbred claiming price rule on a case-by-case basis for all or a portion of a race meeting, while requiring the track to meet increased requirements to ensure the competitiveness, soundness, and safety of the horses that enter any such races. Such conditional approval, adopted on a 5-0 vote, provided that should a substantive comment be received before the close of business period, which was then set for the close of business on December 17th, that staff would promptly inform each commissioner and suspend further administrative action. As you have each been informed, the Commission did receive a timely written comment which necessitates supplemental consideration. Most of the comment received did not relate to the substance of the proposed rule and is therefore not considered germane, as the commentator raised procedural concerns regarding the process of rule consideration. With respect to the substance of the rule, the commentator expressed the opinion that the proposal should not be adopted, asserting that the current rule better protects horse safety. As discussed at the December 10th meeting, staff believes that the proposed rulemaking appropriately balances competitive and safety concerns and contains adequate safeguards to ensure that the general ratio rule will be relaxed only when appropriate assurances of equine safety are obtained. Other than this most recent comment, no other substantive comment was received. Staff continues to recommend adoption of this rule proposal.
Commissioners, any questions on the adoption of the rule regarding purse-to-price ratio in thoroughbred claiming races? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt this rule?
So moved. Weren't we going to talk about this?
We will.
Okay, good. So
Second.
Wait, you want to move the rule before we talk about it?
That's the comments on the rule that has been moved.
So you put the motion on and then have discussion on the pending motion.
Yep.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
I believe there was.
Okay. We received public comment on the purse-to-price ratio rule, and we're very appreciative of those comments. We also acknowledge that it's inherent in the racing, in horse racing, that there's risk involved in that activity. As a result, today the Commission, based upon the recommendations of Dr. Scott Palmer, the State Equine Medical Director, is giving conditional approval to the purse-to-price ratio rule. The Commission directs staff and Dr. Palmer to exercise discretion in the implementation of this rule on a race-to-race basis. Staff is also directed to document results and report to the Commission in our May 2019 meeting in respect to the observed results in relation to any relaxation of the rule that staff has approved. Does anyone else have any additional comments?
Nope.
Any further discussion of the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
For Commission consideration is proposed rulemaking to allow necessary regulatory changes to be effective to prevent operational cessation of Cash for Life. Cash for Life is an existing lottery draw game offered by 9 states wherein players pick 5 ball numbers from 1 to 60 in the main field plus 1 number from a secondary field of 1 to 4. The operational aspects of Cash for Life are controlled by an agreement among the participating states. New York has offered Cash for Life since June 2014. The participating states have advanced rule proposals changing the frequency of the drawings from 2 per week to daily and adjusting the description of the maximum length of subscription accordingly. These changes will take effect for the July 1st, 2019 drawing. New York will need to conform its rules to the group's rules in order to continue to offer the game. The Division of the Lottery anticipates that offering Cash for Life daily will provide incremental revenue to education. In addition to the frequency and subscription changes, several technical changes are proposed for clarity and consistency. Staff recommends that the Commission authorize the proposal of this rulemaking.
Commissioners, any questions on the proposed amendment to the Cash for Life rules? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
For Commission consideration is a proposal to enable sports wagering as an authorized game pursuant to Article 13 of the Racing, Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law. The intention of these rules was to provide a solid regulatory structure that would enable the 4 facilities to get running as soon as practicable, with the concept that novel or unique concepts and ideas can be visited at a future date. The proposed regulations seek to protect the integrity of wagering and underlying contests and ensure that sports wagering remains within the scope of activity the legislature authorized. These regulations set forth a similar regulatory framework as those in states that regulate sports wagering presently. The proposal is also consistent with the existing Commission authority related to licensed commercial casinos. The proposal contains definitions applicable to sports wagering and addresses such items as licensing, lounge and system requirements, wager types, pool integrity, compliance, and responsible gaming elements. A pre-proposal draft of these rules was shared with various interested constituencies, and their comments, where staff determined relevant, have been incorporated. Staff recommends that the Commission authorize the proposal of this rulemaking. Should the Commission propose these rules, all interested parties will have 60 days for public comment following the publication in the State Register.
Any questions on the proposal of rules regarding sports wagering? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next. Our next item on the agenda is adjudications. Today we have 6 items for adjudication. Rob?
On February 2nd, 2019, the Bureau of Licensing denied the application of Jamel Stokes for a casino key employee license as a count room shift manager at Resorts World Casino, Catskills, citing Racing, Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law Section 1318 1A and C, which provides that the applicant must prove qualification by clear and convincing evidence and disqualification on the grounds of a conviction of the applicant of any offense in any jurisdiction which is or would be a felony or other crime involving public integrity, embezzlement, theft, fraud, or perjury. Mr. Stokes requested a hearing, which was conducted on August 24th. The hearing officer submitted a report to the Commission Secretary recommending that the license denial be upheld. The Commission considered this matter at a meeting conducted pursuant to the judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings exemption of the New York Public Officers Law, Section 108.1.
The Commission duly deliberated and considered this matter and determined upon a 6-0 vote to sustain the hearing officer's report and recommendations. Next case.
On May 18th, 2018, the Bureau of Licensing issued a notice of license suspension and ordered the immediate temporary suspension of the lottery sales agent license of S&S Grocery Mart, Inc., which does business as Four Corners Convenience at 403 Merrick Road in Oceanside. The notice informed S&S that the suspension was for fraud, deceit, misrepresentation, or conduct prejudicial to the public confidence in the state lottery. The notice stated that there was evidence of tampering with instant tickets and that the suspension could become a revocation unless S&S requested a hearing. A subsequent notice of hearing further alleged that a then co-owner of S&S had scratched unsold instant lottery tickets in a manner not noticeable to customers and then sold losing tickets to customers. S&S requested a hearing, which was conducted on November 30th. The hearing officer submitted a report to the Commission's Secretary dated December 10th. The hearing officer recommended that the license be revoked and that the period of the date of suspension to the Commission's decision be a suspension of the license. The Commission considered this matter at a meeting conducted pursuant to the judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings exemption of New York Public Officers Law, Section 108.1.
The Commission duly deliberated and considered this matter and determined upon a 6-0 vote to sustain the hearing officer's report and recommendations. Next case, please.
On June 6, 2018, the Bureau of Licensing issued 3 notices of license suspension and ordered the immediate temporary suspension of the lottery sales agent license of Sanam Petroleum Corporation, which does business as Bloomingburg Mobile at 154 Main Street in Bloomingburg, BP-BAPS Enterprises, Inc., which does business as Fair Oaks General Store at 355 Bloomingburg Road in Middletown, and Harguru Nanak Petroleum Corporation, which does business as Goshen Mobile at 399 Greenwich Avenue in Goshen. The respective notices informed each licensee that the suspension was for fraud, deceit, misrepresentation, or conduct prejudicial to the public confidence in the state lottery. Each notice also stated that there was evidence of tampering with instant tickets. A consolidated notice of hearing was subsequently issued, joining the 3 matters due to their common facts and ownership of each by a single individual, Manajurjit Singh. Further, the consolidated notice alleged that unsold instant lottery tickets were scratched in a manner not noticeable to customers, and then losing tickets were sold to customers. Additionally, the notice stated that each of the Singh licensees had failed to pay money due to the state lottery. The notice stated that the suspension could become a revocation unless the licensees requested a hearing. Mr. Singh requested a hearing. Thus, a hearing was conducted on September 26th. Hearing officer submitted a report to the Commission Secretary recommending that the agent's license be revoked and that the period of suspension to the date of decision, the Commission's decision be a suspension of the license. The Commission considered this matter at a meeting conducted pursuant to the judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings exception of the Public Officers Law, Section 108.1.
For clarity and avoidance of any confusion, we're going to address each of these matters individually, and there's 3 altogether. With respect to the matter of Sanam Petroleum Corp., the Commission duly deliberated and considered this matter and determined upon a 6-0 vote to sustain the hearing officer's report and recommendations, while clarifying that the hearing officer's report and recommendations applies to the licensed individual. With respect to the matter of BP Bats Enterprise Incorporated, the commission duly deliberated and considered this matter and determined upon a 6-0 vote to sustain the hearing officer's report and recommendations, while clarifying that the hearing officer's report and recommendations applies to this license individually. With respect to the matter of Haguro Nanak Petroleum Corp., the commission duly deliberated and considered this matter and determined upon a 6-0 vote to sustain the hearing officer's report and recommendation, and it applies to this license individually. Want to do the final case, please?
Certainly. In September and October of 2017, the Bureau of Licensing issued 4 notices of license suspension, each ordering the immediate temporary suspension of lottery sales agent license of Third Avenue Grill and Deli and Grill, Corporation, which conducts business at 7702 Third Avenue in Brooklyn. 2 of the notices, dated September 15th and 29th, cited reported sales of cigarettes without the required tax stamps and related arrests. 3 of the notices, dated September 22nd, 29th, and October 13th, advised Third Avenue Deli that it was suspended pursuant to Tax Law Section 1607 and Commission Rule 5001.19 because of a failure to remit funds due to the lottery. Each of the notices stated that the suspension would become a revocation unless Third Avenue Deli requested a hearing. After a hearing was requested, the Commission Office of Counsel moved for summary judgment. The Commission considered this matter at a meeting conducted pursuant to the judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings exemption of New York Public Officers Law, Section 108.1.
The Commission duly deliberated and considered this matter and determined upon a 6-0 vote to grant the motion of summary judgment, and based upon the facts established by the motion papers, found that the lottery sales agent's license should be revoked. The findings and order will be forthcoming. The next item of business is consideration of the application of MGM Yonkers, Inc. to conduct harness racing, simulcasting, and account wagering on horse racing and video lottery gaming at Yonkers Raceway, and to consider a material debt transaction should MGM Yonkers be approved. Rob?
On May 29, 2018, MGM Resorts International announced that it intended to pursue the purchase of Yonkers Racing Corporation and its affiliated entities and assume operational control of the Empire City Casino and Yonkers Raceway. Yonkers Racing Corporation is the licensed video lottery gaming agent of Empire City. It is also the licensed operator of the harness track at Yonkers Raceway. As Chairman Sample mentioned, MGM is seeking Commission approval for its applications to conduct harness racing, simulcasting and account wagering in calendar year 2019, and to conduct video lottery gaming. MGM is also seeking approval of a related material debt transaction in connection to the financing of the transaction. The Division of Racing examined all filings to ensure that the required statutory and regulatory elements related to the annual licensing application were satisfied. They also examined all simulcast agreements. The division advises that no material illustrated grounds reasonably sufficient to deny licensure for any entity that applied in connection with this transaction. With respect to the licensing process, the Bureau of Licensing reviewed applications for each of the entities and associated persons required to be licensed in connection with this transaction. For principal management employees, the license application and associated federal and state fingerprint cards returns were examined. No application illustrated grounds reasonably sufficient to deny licensure or suitability to any person or entity that has applied in connection with this transaction. Finally, the Office of Counsel examined the sufficiency of the number of race dates applied for, a request for waiver of distributing purse checks within 72 hours of being earned, concentrated animal feeding operations documentation, stall application material, voluntary exclusion policies, a totalizator security plan, and compliance with the acceptance and/or caching of electronic benefit transfer devices. All required elements were deemed approved or in substantial compliance with the statutory or regulatory requirements. The first item for consideration is MGM Yonkers' request for approval of its applications to conduct harness racing in 2019. Such license is applied for and considered annually. Staff has reviewed this application and has found the application to be substantially complete. Staff recommends the Commission approve MGM Yonkers' 2019 racetrack license application. I would also like to note that the Commission received no correspondence from the public regarding this transaction.
Commissioners, any questions on the approval of the request by MGM Yonkers to approve their licensing application to conduct harness racing in 2019 as of the date of the purchase transaction closes?
None.
No questions?
None.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The second
Next.
item for consideration is MGM Yonkers' request for approval of its applications to conduct simulcasting and account wagering on horse racing in 2019. Such licenses are applied for and considered annually. Staff has reviewed these applications and found the applications to be substantially complete. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the MGM Yonkers 2019 simulcasting and account wagering license application. I would also like to note that the Commission received no correspondence from the public regarding this transaction.
Commissioners, any questions on the approval of the request by MGM Yonkers to approve their licensing application to conduct simulcast and account wagering in 2019 as of the date of the purchase transaction closing?
No, sir.
No? Questions? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, video lottery.
As a point of background, video lottery gaming is statutorily permitted at Yonkers Raceway. MGM Yonkers has applied for a video lottery gaming license and requests the issuance of an operation certificate to conduct video lottery gaming at Yonkers Raceway as an agent for the state pursuant to Commission rules. Video lottery gaming operations are presently conducted at the premises with Yonkers Racing Corporation as the state's video lottery agent. MGM Yonkers has formally represented to the Commission that it intends to maintain the internal controls, policies, procedures, and game floor layout already in operation. As such, the Gaming Division concluded that such documents and layout remain satisfactory. In connection with MGM Yonkers' request for the issuance of an operation certificate, the Gaming Division, Bureau of Finance and Administration, and the Office of Counsel reviewed a wide variety of materials and supporting documentation, including a jobs compendium, internal control procedures regarding the operation of video lottery gaming activity, procedures and policies regarding the conduct and operation of video lottery gaming, financial controls, marketing allowance procedures, controls to assure compliance with underage gaming prohibition, alcoholic beverages, firearms and excluded persons, responsible gaming and the acceptance of public assistance requirements, and surveillance and security controls. All elements were deemed approved or in substantial compliance with statutory or regulatory requirements. Additionally, review of the documentation and materials provided by MGM Yonkers to the Bureau of Finance and Administration has been found adequate to establish the financial stability of MGM Yonkers pursuant to Commission rules. With respect to the licensing process, the Bureau of Licensing reviewed the applications and federal and state fingerprint returns for all principals of MGM Yonkers and all parent and holding companies. A full and complete background investigation on each application was also conducted. No application illustrated grounds reasonably sufficient to deny licensure or suitability to any person or entity that has applied in connection with this transaction. That brings us to the third item for consideration. MGM Yonkers' request for a video lottery gaming license and issuance of an operation certificate. Commission staff recommends the issuance of a video lottery gaming license and an operation certificate to MGM Yonkers dated as the purchase dated as of the date of the purchase transaction closure. I would also like to note that the commission received no correspondence from the public regarding this transaction.
Any questions from anyone on the approval of the request by MGM Yonkers to approve their licensing application to conduct video lottery gaming at Yonkers Raceway and issuance of an operations certificate as of the date of the purchase transaction closing? Any questions?
No.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next.
The fourth and last item for consideration is MGM Yonkers seeks approval of the anticipated debt transactions involved in the anticipated merger transaction and of related acquisition of real property and interests. Presently, Yonkers Raceway Corporation is the borrower of a $270 million syndicated loan consisting of a first lien credit agreement, first lien collateral agreement, first lien pledge agreement, and first lien guarantee. Yonkers Raceway Corporation mortgaged the ground lessee interest in the ground leasehold estate as collateral to the Industrial Development Agency of the City of Yonkers, securing the payments in lieu of taxes and ancillary amounts owed the City of Yonkers as part of a pilot program. In 2017, Yonkers Raceway Corporation sought and received commission approval to refinance the $274.3 million of existing debt, specifically a $214.3 million first lien term loan and a $60 million second lien term loan through a $270 million syndicated loan. The commission approved that transaction. Upon closing, the existing $270 million credit mortgage will be assigned to a bridge lender and extinguished through the debt's inclusion in an existing revolving line of credit issued to MGM Growth Properties Operating Partnership, LP, by numerous lending institutions with Bank of America as administrative agent. The commission has been advised that the revolving line of credit will not include real property associated with the video lottery gaming facility or the racetrack as collateral. At the conclusion of the material debt transaction, the existing parcel will be subdivided with control dependent upon mortgage document and easements, allowing the use of the properties and other amenities by the video lottery gaming facility and racetrack. The Commission Counsel's Office also requested final property transfer documents for review and will provide an updated position if review alters control and use. Staff recommends the Commission approve the MGM Yonkers material debt transaction involved in the anticipated merger transaction and the related acquisition of real property and interests.
Commissioners, any questions on the approval of the request by MGM Yonkers to approve their material debt transaction involved in the anticipated merger transaction and of the related acquisition of real property and interest? Any questions? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. There was a lot of work done by staff from the various parties involved and from the gaming agency, and we'd like to thank them for all their time and effort. Today is a culmination of several months' work that was put into this enterprise. But we'd also like to thank the Rooney family for the many years that they've contributed to the health of the harness racing industry in the state, and the work that's done at Yonkers Raceway, and also congratulate MGM Resorts International and MGM Yonkers and welcome them to the state of New York. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is old business. Does anyone have any old business? Do we have any new business? As a new business item, we're in a transitioning back between Rob Williams has returned to the agency from an assignment that he had for over a year and a half. We welcome him back. And at the same time, we'd like to thank Ron Okram, and I think I speak for all the commissioners, for stepping up to the plate, giving us guidance, giving us direction, and also steering the ship through some very awkward and difficult times, and he should be commended for that service. He's agreed to stay with us for, we hope, a long period of time, but he hopes a short period of time. But we will get through that. I guess the next item on the, yep, thank you.
Yep.
The next item on our agenda is the scheduling of the next meeting. And Kristen, tentatively, when is that? February the 25th?
Yes, sir.
Well, in any event, Kristen will work with all of us to confirm the February 25th date for our next meeting. And as far as I have on my notes, that concludes our public meeting for today. And thank you.